Yo, G.
Yo, how's it going?
All right, you're recording. I'm recording.
Yeah.
So everybody listening, this is the AMA for G. So G's done a few of these with me. There's been a few others. This time we thought we'd turn it around. So now I'm going to ask questions for G that you guys have submit to us tonight. So I've got a whole bunch of questions. We were going to talk about something that you've got coming out, but I've already seen there's a few questions about that one thing, so I'll wait until those questions come up. Otherwise, I think we should jump straight in with the first question. So,
Yeah, sweet.
Iron Pirate Val, amazing name, wants to know which ways do you misdirect best? Humor, hand gestures, storytelling. So he wants to know how you misdirect.
I don't think there's like a best way, but the worst way I'd say is to try and act busy. So for me, if you make ridiculous hand gestures, you're trying too hard to misdirect. Like misdirection should happen on like an offbeat or as like an answer to a question. So when people are doing the pass, for instance, I would say, how many cards down do you think that is? Do the pass, and I'd like drop my formal gaze and say side by side, how many cards down? Obviously that's a revealed version, but I'd always say like try and do it on an offbeat or when asking a question. Or I mean, in humour, somebody's laughing, or you've made a good joke, or you've performed an amazing effect, and everyone's blown away. You've got all the time in the world to palm the deck off to your pocket, or pop a coin into their pocket. So yeah, storytelling. I'm not a fan of telling stories. I know it works for a lot of magicians. Humour's good, but hand gestures I'd stay away from.
Is it something that you kind of practice, or is it something that's come naturally to you? Do you think it's an important part of practicing the trick?
I'd say like I always had this controversial opinion for practice, which was that you should perform to practice, because you'll iron out your mistakes like way quicker performing to a load of strangers than you will if you just sit in your room and mechanically get something perfect. So for me, it's always come with practice and performance. And I say to a lot of people, I'll try something one way, and then I'll try it a completely different way with a different presentation, and whichever way works best. Kind of like split testing. Group A had that performance, Group B had this performance. Which bits work for them, which bits work for them, and then I'll make a performance or a presentation out of the best bits of both. And then I'll go perform that. And then if that doesn't work, or I've got a new idea, or I chat to you or Lloyd or Pete Turner, and you've got like a few things that you want to drop in, then I'll try those. And it sort of naturally gravitates through performances.
I guess it depends on the trick as well, and the effect.
Yeah.
Each effect and each trick is going to have its own set of rules specifically for misdirection.
Yeah,
like card to pocket, for example, has its own unique set of rules for misdirection. So I guess it's about the trick.
Yeah, and some of the best magicians that you'll see, the magicians that fool magicians, they perform in simple things, but they're just masters of misdirection.
Yeah.
Like Apollo Robbins, in the UK, James Brown, especially if you watch him perform, he's misdirecting you. He's got your watch, he's got like your wallet, he's got a card in your pocket, he's 3 coins ahead on a move, and anytime you look somewhere he's doing something else, so he's constantly keeping busy. I think something somebody said to me was, when you're performing magic there should be no downtime. So what they meant by that was, when there is a downtime moment, or when you've got that relaxing moment, you should be doing the dirty work for your next effect. so that you're always ahead. So, for instance, with like ambitious card, it comes to the top a few times, and it's signed. Everyone's laughing. Oh my god, how did he do it? And I show them the card, and they're all discussing it. And in that down turn, I'll put that second from top now. So I'll perform a Venus trap or get it turned over just to get that second from the top. So I'm doing my dirty work whilst everyone else is preoccupied reacting. So yeah, that's the best way. And if you know you're being burned, you shouldn't try and create misdirection with big hand gestures.
Yeah. I guess the only way to kind of learn about it and understand it is, like you said, actually performing and using that as practice.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be afraid to fail either. People always say, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable performing this in case somebody catches me."
Yeah.
And like my answer to that is, so. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You may never see that person ever again in your life. So you might as well take that valuable the valuable lesson of failure is worth more than their opinions of you as a magician. Like it doesn't matter whether they think you're good or they think you're bad, because the next day they go on living their life exactly the same as they did before. So yeah, just don't be afraid to try new things and practice while performing.
Great advice. Okay, another question from Ben Dent, and he asks, street magic approaching? Question mark. And how to get gigs. So I guess the question is, how do you approach people when doing street magic, and how do you get gigs? So, 2 questions.
Okay, so we'll cover the street magic one first because I think it's like potentially the easiest. One is get them to ask you. So I flourish, practice sort of all the time when I'm in public, commuting on a airplane, waiting in an airport, on a train, waiting for friends at a bar. I'll always be practicing, and most of the time people will ask you why you're carrying a deck of cards, or why you've got a coin in classic palm, or why you're, I don't know, trying to muscle past something through a glass in the street, or doing one-handed cuts whilst walking down the road. So most of the time people are curious and they'll ask you if you're publicly practicing. So that's a good tip. If you can flourish, even sort of standing there and performing a card spring, there'll be people looking at you and go, whoa, what was that you just did? Do that again. And I'll say, how do you do that? And I'm a magician. Do you want to see something? And then they'll obviously watch that trick. The other way is just to swallow your pride. Don't be afraid of rejection. And everyone is afraid of rejection. So I just say, like, try not to be. Think about, I had a friend before who was dancing in a club, and I've never felt comfortable dancing without a few whiskeys in me. And I asked him why he didn't feel like an idiot, like why he didn't care about what everyone else thought. And he said, tomorrow morning they'll all wake up and they probably won't remember who I am. And I keep that same mentality now whenever I approach on the street, especially filming live performances for Illusionist. Sometimes you've got to go off and show people how this can be done in the street. And yeah, the best way is like try not to feel judged by whoever it is you're going up to. Try and sort of fake the confidence if you don't have it. Go up and say, hey guys, I'm a magician, I'm performing at the, and then wherever you are, you could say that you're performing there or that you're hired by somebody. Or if you see a group of people, picking the right people is another good one. You see a group of people that look like they're having fun, that are all open. Never approach somebody from behind. It's the same sort of when you're approaching girls probably as it is to approaching groups for magic. Coming up from behind someone's creepy. So yeah, try and approach big open groups, maybe people sitting at tables having a few drinks, having a laugh, or people that are not busy going somewhere, people that are sort of stagnant and staying somewhere, because they're the people that are going to be most responsive. Otherwise you're just bothering people.
So
and then
for like gigs, let's say you're working a paid event, how would you approach people then? Would you just say, I'm working here? Or would you have the same mentality? Would you just go up and...
Yeah, so at like paid gigs, I try not to say that I'm a magician, because I don't want them to know that it's magic, or that I'm cheating, or that I'm tricking them until I've already started. I like to be ahead. So at paid events, I don't frame it as magic. So I say that I've been hired by the bride and groom if it's a wedding, or I've been hired by, and it could be like a vodka bar or a big hotel for entertainment, or would they like to see something cool? And I never say magic. I never say, do you want to see a trick? Because my opening trick is sort of pitched more as like a gambling thing. So yeah, paid events approach it differently, but on the street, just picking the right people's one, never approaching from behind people's two. Try and get people to ask you by being public with your practice. So if you've got a deck of cards in hand, you'll probably be the only person for the next 2,000 people that's doing that, if not more. So you're going to be instantly interested and they'll be curious.
That's probably the one bit of advice that I'd give. That's probably how I'd answer that question.
Yeah.
You'll make them approach you. I never felt comfortable approaching people, never. At gigs and paid events, years back when I used to do that.
Yeah.
So I used to do the same thing. I used to find ways to get people to approach me.
Yeah, so even walking around, I'd say that the 100% the best way to get somebody to ask you is to walk around and perform a card spring. So if you don't know the card spring, there's tutorials all over the internet for it, free tutorials. It's the best way to get people to take an interest in you with a deck of cards.
So, part two of that question, or that person's questions, and how to get gigs. So how do you get gigs, or how did you, when you did do gigs?
So the first one was within my group of friends, it was always comfortable to perform for them. So on nights out, I would perform for them, and that would become a bigger group, which would attract other people to come over, which would become a bigger group, and eventually sort of bar staff would come over, or table waiters would come over, and then management would come over. They'd say, oh, you've got to show my manager that, or you've got to show somebody that. So it would all build quite naturally when performing in those scenarios. But the way that I did it was to call some 5-star hotels, which was obviously where I wanted to be, and ask to speak to their event manager or wedding coordinator and set a meeting with those people. And you go and see those people and you set a casual meeting, take some business cards with you, take a deck of cards, some coins, sponge balls, a Sharpie, whatever you want, however you perform, and go and show the wedding coordinator and their staff and the people that work with them on coordinating events for these big hotels and coordinating weddings for the big hotels, what you can do. And if you're good and if you're worth it, then they will book you. And if you're sort of mediocre and on your way up, then they might try and charge you to be in the wedding brochures for the guests or the people that are running corporate events to try and book you if they want to. And then once you do well at those events, word of mouth will spread. So it will eventually organically build to a point where somebody tells somebody else about you at a wedding, or you were performing to somebody who's having a birthday party next week, and after all of that happened, I then met an agent at a corporate gig that I did for Admiral Car Insurance a few years ago. And then he started to work for me to get me gigs, because he could see sort of how well I was doing at his place of work, and he quit his job, and he started to book my events for me then. So yeah, just be proactive. Nothing's going to be handed to you on a plate in life, so you need to decide where you want to go and gig, and then go after those people in a clever way, which is booking face-to-face meetings with wedding coordinators, event coordinators, corporate management, party planners, and get to those people.
A friend of mine, Dan Alexander, had some great advice. This is what he did, and he makes a living doing nothing but bookings and gigs, and he's been doing it for a long time now. And at the beginning, what he did, he went to like events, and he went to restaurants and residencies, or potential residencies.
Yeah.
And he said to them, I'm going to give you an hour's gig whenever you want, absolutely free, I won't charge you, just to show you, what I'm worth and what I can do. And if you like it, then you book me next time, and then you'll start paying.
Yeah.
And every time he did that, he always got invited back to work there, and he got loads of residencies. So I think it's important that, especially with this kind of job and gigs, that it's face to face. You can't make a phone call, you can't send an email. You've got to show them what you can do and what you're capable of and what your worth is.
Yeah.
It's not always the easiest thing getting gigs, but once you get one or two, word of mouth starts going around, and everybody will all of a sudden start wanting you.
I agree. And also, if you get a gig in a nice place, so here in South Wales, there's a big hotel called the Celtic Manor. It's like a 5-star resort where they had the Ryder Cup. And once I started to do weddings there, then I could say that I was the magician from the Celtic Manor. And I've stopped gigging now, obviously. Joined Team E, and we're also so busy, and for me, I don't enjoy booking gigs anymore, unless it's word of mouth or friends of friends. I don't advertise, but having a good client like a Revolution Vodka Bar or like the Celtic Manor really helped me to sell myself to other venues or to newspapers for their sort of award shows at the end of the year. I could say I'm the magician for this place, and they would instantly take that. Tim Ferriss, sort of one of my favorite authors, says that you've got to qualify yourself whenever you're pitching for something. You've got to show that you've got some form of credibility. You've got to show credibility, and doing things like that really does.
So, next question, Kieran Mahon says, will you be at Session? We can assume that he means the Session convention in the UK.
Yeah. Kieran, I'll definitely be there. I've been going for the last few years. So yeah, if anyone else is going, and Kieran especially, come say hi.
And that's probably the only convention that I go to as well. It's one of the best conventions.
I'd say it's the best convention that I've ever been to. I've been to FISM and Blackpool and things, and it's still the only one that I'll purposefully book.
We go to Blackpool, but we don't go inside.
Yeah, no.
Go for different reasons. Okay, so Sean McCarthy wants to know, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to work for one of the larger magic retailers, such as Illusionist?
Do you know what? I get this question probably at least 3 to 5 times a day. What about you?
Yeah, it's a common question because it's kind of the job's seen as one of those rock star kind of platforms instead of people wanting to be successful magicians, they want a job working in magic, which is fair and good.
Yeah.
I've got my own set of answers to that, but
do you want to answer first?
I'm more interested in what you think.
I think that first thing is I was sort of headhunted, as were you, to work for Illusionist and be part of Team E. And I get this all the time, and I feel bad to sort of say to people, but because it's not like a real answer, but if you're good and you're doing good things and you're building an audience and you've got great opinions and you're technically skilled and you've got the right attitude, then it will come to you and success will come to you. But you've got to have it, like I said before, nothing's handed to you on a plate. You've got to have some modicum of sort of a positive work ethic, and you're going to have at least some sort of fan base that you've built through being good or being respectful or having your own, and I mean your own image and your own sort of identity and your own style. So yeah, obviously we've got like a really intimate team. I know other magic retailers do as well, and all of those members of the team have got transferable skills, which means that it's not good enough if you just know a few tricks. You need to be able to read the industry, have good networking skills, and you have to sort of be able to come up with like cool creative ideas like you and Pete do for things that have never been done before in magic, like for the Kings. Who would have thought that smashing up a hotel room would become the start of one of the best-selling decks in Illusionist history? I mean, it's like those crazy, original, creative ideas get you noticed just as much as being able to do magic or being able to flourish do. Having those extra skills.
Yeah, I don't think it should be like your first ambition as a magician to want to work for a company. And I think I'm kind of saying that selfishly because of the way that I did it. Like I never thought that I'd be working for a company like this. I follow a very simple philosophy that if it makes me happy, then I'll do it. And so very selfishly, I do whatever I want for me. And if other people seem to like it, then they like it. If they don't like it, then they look the other way. And I'm not too fussed. I don't really care either way. But being that way made me a very original in terms of style and a way of thinking. And I think that's what got me attention from like Illusionist, for example.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, after like you get the job interview, it's not like exactly what you just said. It's not just about being a magician. Like I don't talk too much, publicly about my skill set and other things that I am capable of and other things I've done, but they all come in to a serious advantage in a team like this, in a team that has to be creative in every single way, not just creative in designing playing cards or coming up with magic tricks, but creative in a way that a company runs that people might not know about or might not understand. So that as an ambition, it's fair and it's okay to have that as an ambition to work for a magic company, but I think it certainly needs to be understood before you decide that's what you want to do. And you don't just get that job all of a sudden. You've got to kind of...
Yeah. I mean...
It's a very rare job,
it might look to people that that I've come out of nowhere and suddenly I'm working for Illusionist, but I've been in magic for the last 9 years. I've known you for the last 8 years, and I've been publishing magic since 2009, creating, obviously performing. So I've sort of paid my dues in that respect. So although it looks like people just appear, chances are they've worked for 10 years. It won't just be a case of applying for a job. It could be 10, 20 years before they hit. So I think, and I may be jumping ahead, but when people ask me and you this, or Lloyd or Pete, when they send us these inbox messages, we're more than happy to answer them, but I don't think that's the question you're asking. I think the question you're asking is not how do I work for a magic retailer, but how do I make my job, how do I make my passion my job? How do I have a cool lifestyle and enjoy what I do for work? Because the truth is, not many people do enjoy what they do for work, and not many people get to live their dream and sort of do something that they love every day in, day out. So I think that's what they're actually asking.
Yeah.
And I would say there's many different ways to skin a cat, and you might think that working for a magic retailer is the route you want to go down, and then in 3 years' time an agent could offer you a stage show in Vegas that then would make you the happiest man in the world. So if you want magic to be your job, then work towards that, and opportunities will come your way if you work hard enough. And yeah, eventually just be happy in what you do.
I think if you follow that idea of just making yourself happy, then you'll get everything that you want.
Yeah.
Because you won't stop until you are happy.
Yeah, exactly. And I've quit jobs in the past, and I've taken pay cuts in the past, specifically because it made me happier to do something else than it did to do that for more money or for other tangible benefits.
Okay, so next question. Brad Hart asks, what is your favorite part of magic? Okay. All right, again, a lot of deep questions. So hopefully there's some funny ones coming up. So I'll try not to babble on this. I'd say when I was 16 and I had zero confidence, especially public speaking and chatting to strangers, I was told by I don't want to say a mentor, an old manager of mine when I had a part-time job in retail. He said, there's two types of people in this world: interesting people and interested people. And if you're interested in everyone else, then you're automatically interesting. And some people are just interested, and that's all they've got. So that's what some people think they're interested in, and that's all they've got. So I would say try to be interested. The reason I like magic is because you're automatically interested in everyone else. You're interested in what their reaction to this is, what they think of this. Can you improve their day with this trick? Do they think this is cool? Is this the most impossible thing they've seen? Will this make them happier? And you feed off that buzz of everyone else's excitement. And I promise you that with everyone's Facebook statuses moaning about what's on TV or all these animal rights issues that they do nothing about other than comment below a photo. If you've got a deck of cards in your hand or a coin, or you can do something that nobody else can in the next group of 100 people, you'll probably leave that party or that event or that gig as the most interesting person they've ever met. And I suppose that's my favourite part of magic, is having something that hardly anyone else has got,
having your own sort of USP, and the attitude of being interested in everyone else's reactions, because it makes you more approachable and makes you seem like a nicer person.
Cool. A lot more questions. So next, Sasha Crespi asks, boobs or ass?
Great question. I wish it wasn't a choice between the two. Like,
like in reality, you don't have to choose because you get both.
Yeah, in reality, like anatomically speaking, you get both anyway. So I would say both. But if I had to choose between nice boobs and a nice ass, I would choose ass every time.
Ass, man.
All the best men are.
So, next question. Our friend Mads Larsen asks, what is fly?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mads. I'd probably say that this is a tough one to answer. It's coming out, I think tomorrow. So, by the time most people watch this, they might already know, especially if they're in Black Club, they probably already have it. Fly is my favourite approach to card magic, which is using original sleights so that the effect, the method of the effect is over before the presentation's even started. And in layman's terms, it's like a signed card jumps from one spectator's hands into another spectator's hands, and you don't have to touch either of their hands to do that. But yeah, fly is it's two original sleights. The plot is obviously transposition. It's transpositions of famous effects, but having somebody's signed card jump from in between their hands and appear between somebody else's without you touching either of them, it's for me, it was the strongest transposition premise. You're not touching them, you're not touching the deck. So someone's holding the deck, someone else is holding holding their hands together with cards, and then it jumps across, and it's so fair and stripped down that it's just become my favourite thing to do for the last few years. I've seen you
perform it a number of times. You do it flawlessly, to a point where you've obviously put a lot of time, effort, thought, and practice into it. Is that your go-to effect, would you say? Or at least one of them?
It's not my go-to effect. It used to be a few years ago. I'd say if somebody asks a magic convention, if they ask to see something from me, I know that a go-to effect like two-card Monty won't impress them. So it'll be my go-to effect at a magic convention, or when meeting a new magician, it will definitely be that, because they probably wouldn't have seen the sleights before. And like you said, after a bit of practice, I now do it so smooth and fast that they probably won't catch it. I mean, I've done this at lectures for people with multiple angle cameras and audiences of hundreds, and I'll say to them at the end, hands up if you think you know that's done, and they all put their hands up, and I say, how? And they say, dupes. I'm like, no, absolutely no dupes. It's a normal deck, I could borrow it, and that card's signed. And they're like, stooge. I'm like, nope. And they're like, oh, okay, show us. So then I teach them how I do it, and they say, wow, I didn't even see you do that.
There's one move in there, which, you know which one I mean, which I think is just incredible. That can be kind of taken away and added to so many different other ideas.
Yeah, I've got other ideas with that move, worked it into controls and other things, but I don't want to overload people. For now, what they learn in fly is probably one of the most naturally covert motions when it comes to sleight of hand that I could create, that I could even think of. Not to say there's not others out there that are better, but this is something that Lloyd Barnes called me up with an idea for a plot back in 2007. And an hour later, I called him back with a method, and his method was completely different to mine, and we both met up, and I showed him, he showed me, and he was like, wow, yours is way cleaner, it's way better. So yeah, it just came about, practiced it from there and refined it. But yeah, it's my favourite ever card trick.
So that's out, that's released this week.
Yeah, I think it'll be tomorrow. Black Club probably already have it by the time this goes out. So
cool. Fly. It's cool. So Jared Larson, there's 2 questions. Favorite flourish, and then favorite deck.
Favorite deck ever? Probably the old vintage fan backs, bicycle vintage fan backs, because I bought loads of them. They used to be my like go-to deck for gigs and things, and the stock felt really nice, and I was an impressionable teenager, and Dan and Dave were using them back in the day. So yeah, that. But my favourite deck now, funnily enough, is Revolvers.
You're not biased in any way.
Yeah, literally not biased in any way. I think this is something that you mentioned before, which is the care that Blaine put into Gator backs. Everyone really noticed.
Yeah.
So when you put the same care into making Revolvers and SWE decks stand out, like to me, when you gave me a few bricks of those, it's one of those decks. I never use a card box ever. I've just got loose decks of cards everywhere. When I go out, I just put a loose deck of cards in my pocket. There's a loose deck of cards in a secret compartment in my car. If I go on a flight, it'll just be put in my jeans pocket. So I'll never carry a box. And Revolvers seem to be, for me, the ones that I'll break them out. They break in super easy, and then they stay at that like consistent level of perfect for 2 weeks, which is not how and I think that's all down to the time you spent on ink and stock and even storage, even like the temperature that they were stored at, just those finer details.
When it comes to like playing cards, specifically all the Madison ones, it's kind of something that has to be done or becomes work, becomes part of the job.
Yeah.
And then because of that, you have time restrictions, and you've got a limit, you've got a date, a deadline that you have to meet. And with Revolvers, all of those things were just taken away. So I was given all the time in the world to work on the perfect deck of playing cards.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've had those cards now for almost a year.
Yeah.
Not been released. About a year, maybe 2 years went into making them. And it's so nice to not rush a deck of playing cards out and not just put a deck of playing cards out. And I hope that's reflected, and I'm glad that you just said that, because it's good feedback to hear that you can recognize those things on all the time and effort that went into the little details that maybe other people don't really care about. But yeah,
I mean, I've been using playing cards since like 2006. Every day of my life, there's always a deck of cards in my hand. They're all over my apartment, not loose like in decks. I'm not that messy, but I've got one in everywhere I go. And if I've got a girlfriend at the time, I'll always have one in their handbag as well, like literally everywhere. So for me, I've had time to get used to decks from other magic companies, decks from Illusionist, decks from Bicycle, decks like from independent creators that put something up on Kickstarter. And for me, the ones that feel the best, and the ones that I've used in like many free Black Club videos that have gone out, are the revolvers. They're like, I'm trying to not use them as much anymore. But do you notice that? I think I've said it to you before, not to like blow smoke, but I'm sure you've noticed it as well after playing with them.
Oh yeah. For feel and finish, without doubt. But my problem is, I gave all mine away. So
yeah, I've got them.
Like,
they're at my house. Yeah.
So I've got a very limited supply left. So that's why you never see me with them anymore.
That's the same as me now. I've got 2 bricks and I'm trying to save them.
I mean, I know they're obviously they're at the warehouse, but like my supply is being sent to people and given away.
Yeah, and the ones at the warehouse are like, for me, they're like 1,000 miles away. So
yeah, so we can't exactly go and get some.
I wouldn't go 1,000 miles for anything.
Okay, next question. Alex Chang asks, what is the hardest sleight that you've had to learn?
Without a doubt, the clip shift by Chad Nelson. Like, at the time, it was pegged as like the hardest move in sleight of hand, and now I can do it sort of really easy. When I first learned it, there was no tutorials on it. I was learning from somebody at the Ruskin in Blackpool. And yeah, without doubt, that was the hardest one. Big time. I think as time goes on, you'll build natural dexterity. And some moves that seemed hard before, you'll revisit months later, and now they're easy. But yeah, that one took a long time.
It's a knuckle buster.
Yeah, definitely. It's the one where like your fingers, you cramp to hurt, and you use your other hand to like grab the deck and do things. So it's tough.
There's something I'm working on at the minute, and I've been trying to get it right for about a year. And it's Bill Kalouche, I believe it's his idea, and it's an anti-faro, but done sideways, so done like this, like almost like the lapel spread.
Nice.
But yeah, so he showed me, put red, black the whole way through the deck. Did this, showed me the faces, and it was just black, and all the reds were hiding behind, and I was gobsmacked. But it's so difficult.
I bet Kalouche is sitting in his apartment now in New York with a cigar and with some rough and smooth powder, laughing that he's fooled you. He's like, yes, got him.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're dedicating months now to practicing this move, he's just laughing, thinking,
Never thought that.
It's rough and smooth, I got that guy.
Yeah. So Alistair on Instagram wants to know, where can one learn hypnotism from?
Good question, Alistair. One can learn hypnotism from many sources.
Great answer. Next question.
But I'll give him a quick answer. For me, I learned it from Darren Brown's Trick of the Mind book. He talks a lot in there about pacing and leading. Grab it from Amazon, Darren Brown, Trick of the Mind. Should be on your bookshelf anyway, it's not.
I guess it's another question that's got the same answer. Practice, like you have to do it to learn the most important things about it.
Yeah, but I'd say I learned it from there. I copied his script from the book onto an A4 sheet of paper, and I read it to somebody in my performing arts class when I was like 15, 16, and they were hypnotized. And then I read it to somebody off my phone in Subway, the sandwich store, when I was 15, and I got him to throw his mother's tea bags in the road, and then I got him to think that he was hypnotized and that the Cybermen from Doctor Who were chasing him. And then I got him to be hypnotized to think that he had an invisible plastic bag over his head, and he almost asphyxiated and collapsed on some steps outside of a pub.
Wow.
So be responsible when you take up hypnotism or start practicing it, is the rule. But a simple script and understanding of that can all be picked up from Darren Brown's book Trick of the Mind, and the rest you can jazz.
getting your mother to throw her tea bags into the road.
Oh, no, I got my friend to throw his mother's. So he'd gone to the shops to buy his mother some tea bags, and then I learned the hard way because I had to pay for him to get replacements. But I told him that it was hot and that he had to get rid of it, and he threw a pack of PG tips into like 3 moving cars.
I'm sure nobody will forget.
No, so yeah, it wasn't glamorous when I started learning hypnotism, but you can learn it all from there and just be responsible. Don't be as stupid as I was, and start with making people think they're like colorblind or that their hand is stuck to their head. That's the fun stuff.
Okay, so Tuhutu.
Yeah, great name.
Tuhutu. What is your favorite opening trick?
I've said this on a podcast, on an Illusionist podcast. So if you go to illusionist.com/podcast, I mention it on there. And I bet you everyone in the comments of this video now is going, I know what it is. I'll give you a clue. It's got the number 2 at the start of the title. So yeah, hopefully everyone can go searching for that and find the answer.
2 sponge balls, I think that the answer is.
No. I'll never be caught dead doing SpongeBob magic.
Our friend Lance T. Miller asks, who is your daddy and what does he do?
That's an Annie question.
Yeah.
Who's your daddy and what does he do? Great kindergarten cop reference, Lance. I'm not going to answer it though.
Okay, yeah. JC Magic 2015. Not to be confused with JC Magic 2012.
Yeah, who's since left the industry after the accident.
JC Magic 2015 wonders, what inspires you to keep going during the times the love of the art just is not enough?
Wow, this is getting as deep as your AMA.
Yeah.
I'd answer that quickly and say that if the love of the art isn't enough, then you don't love it.
Great answer.
So what keeps me going is the fact that I love it. If I ever wanted to stop, then it wouldn't be my passion. So if you ever feel like that, maybe magic isn't for you. Or if you're just wondering if I ever feel like that, I don't.
Good. Chris Patsa asks 2 questions. Best trick to close an act with, and were you disappointed when you didn't get into Hogwarts?
Alright, so Hogwarts, no, I wasn't, because it's fictional. And if I was in there anyway, I'd be, knowing my luck, I'd be putting Slytherin. So, gutted. So I'd rather stay away, and I'm happy that it's not real. Best trick to close an act with. The trick you should close your act with, the best trick to close your act with, is any trick where the reaction is, do another. So, the best trick to close an act with is your first trick, or your second trick, or your third trick. But the longer it goes on, the less interested people will be, the less enthused people will be. You should always leave people wanting more. And if they're still not satisfied at the end, then you've ended it at the perfect time.
Great answer.
That's what I'd say.
So, _tex_09 from Instagram wants to know, cards or coins?
Coin magic has its place. I do a few coin tricks, but definitely cards all the way. I flourish, so.
Do you do any coin things?
I do. If anyone ever asks me to show them a coin trick, I do Apollo Robins's Robbins' coin on shoulder routine.
Yeah.
And then finish it with either coin and a watch, or if I ever do anything other than that, I'll do the Grey Vanish by Brandon Wolf. And Brandon was a friend of mine before he put that project out on Illusionist, so that's not like a shameless plug for an Illusionist product. I wouldn't care if you learned it from Brandon or from the site, but if you don't do it, you should do it. It's like a really elegant coin vanish where you show your hand empty, and then you can show this hand empty, and obviously come back and pinch it from the air and place it in your hand, and it's back, and it's a quick rendition, but it's so clean and slow and natural that people they love it.
I think every card guy has got at least one coin trick that you can do well.
I've seen actually once before. We were out for a few whiskeys, and you were like, "Yo, check this out." And I was waiting for ages for you to get a deck of cards out. I thought you were just drunk. You know, check this out. I'm like, and you're just holding a 50 pence. Like, check what out? You're like, check this out. Look. I'm like, right, get your cards out then.
Where's the cards?
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, check this out, coin vanish. So, yeah, everyone's should be able to do at least one. Because a question that I get sometimes when performing cards, not in a rude way, but people are just inquisitive, is, do you just do cards, or do you do other things as well?
Yeah, I think every magician gets asked that.
So yeah, so always have something in your arsenal for coins.
Okay, so Gene Jr. on Twitter asks, where does your inspiration come from?
From never settling for second best. It comes from not wanting to be mediocre and always wanting to self-improve and be the best, smartest, most caring, most generous, most eloquent and erudite version of myself. So inspiration comes from never being willing to settle. At least for me. What about you? Don't say Jack Daniels.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm never not inspired. So this is a question I find hard to ask.
I think if he's asking like, where does your inspiration for magic come from? I'd say a lot of it's by accident. So you'll pull something off by accident, or you'll perform a move that'll mess up by accident. You'll overshoot a slide, and suddenly you've got like a new clip, and then you practice it in the mirror. You're like, actually, that looks pretty good. So, yeah, accident is another good one. But those accidents always come from practicing, or somebody by chance saying something.
Doug McKenzie once said something that's kind of, when he was speaking about his inspiration and the creating tricks, he had a very simple formula as advice to somebody, and he said, if you think of a card to pocket, right, so you've got three things. You've got card to pocket. Now change one of those words, so change the destination, card to ceiling. Another trick, and it creates a challenge. So now you've got to think, how do I get the card to the ceiling? And in designing those three words in different ways, you kind of force yourself to be inspired by how do I do that? Like, and then you kind of almost inspiring yourself. Because then if you change the word card to like phone to wherever, phone to fish tank, then it forces you to, and you feel inspired by wanting to create, wanting to achieve your own challenges.
That reminds me of a game that me and Lloyd Barnes used to play, which was, we'd write down the 10 theories of magic, which is like restoration, appearance, vanish, transformation, transposition. The list goes on, you can Google it. Write down those 10, and then write down 10 items, random items. So it could be your phone, your wallet, a coin, a deck of cards, a glass or cup, a credit card. It could be a key, and then put them into a mix. So like into a hat or something, those 10, and pick one out. So you've got restoration, and then you pick another one out, and you've got chewing gum, and that's how I came up with extra chewing gum restoration. And I'd say if you do that 10 items and the 10 Thieves of Magic, and force yourself in that fun creative game to come up with new things based on the theory of it.
It's a really cool idea. I'm sure tons of people will be doing that right now.
I know, yeah, they'd be ripping paper and Googling theories of magic.
So, okay, here's another one. Jared Crespel wants to know, which Illusionist team member would you want to cuddle?
Are you sure you didn't write that question?
I swear I didn't write that question.
Sure?
Yeah. I know who I want to cuddle.
Yeah. What is it, me?
It is you, yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel pressured now to say you.
No pressure. I won't be upset.
I'm gonna say Heidi, our director of finance, because she controls all the money and keeps us in champagne and.
Very strategical cuddle right there.
So yeah, I'd cuddle her. Always be on the side of the person who controls your money.
That's very good advice.
And she probably smells way better than like you or Lloyd or Dancy. Maybe not.
Yeah, probably. You're right.
So yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Heidi.
I'm sure she'd be smiling right now. Okay, we're coming up to an hour, so I'm gonna pick one more question.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I think it's pronounced Geordie.
Yeah.
It starts with a D. Geordie.
Geordie. Best name so far as well.
What is your favorite move?
Okay, maybe this is a perfect opportunity for this. Tweet, Instagram, or comment the word useless moves below.
Useless moves.
Yeah, on this video. So anyone watching this, comment below useless moves. If you want to see anything like what my favorite move is. Because for me, my favorite move is something I came up with called bullet bottom palm, which is when you've got a selection and you spin it around and then you can cut the deck, but you've got it in bottom palm. So you perform the flourish and then you spin it into bottom palm. And for me, it's 100% useless in a magic gig, but it's the most satisfying, mechanically beautiful move I've ever created. Because the flow's nice and everything in it, from moving the fingers, creates the mechanics so that the bottom palm happens automatically. Like, you don't have to be skilled to do it. If you can drag a card from the top to the bottom, you can do this. So yeah, for me, that's my favorite move. I've got like at least 20 as good, if not better than that. But they're completely unnecessary. They're completely useless.
We spoke about this together quite a bit. Like, some of the most satisfying moves you might not never do in front of somebody, or you might.
Yeah, exactly. I would have no reason to do that in a gig or a performance, other than to show off.
Yeah.
But it's so satisfying to do. It's like ridiculously satisfying. So yeah, that's my favorite move. Good question, Geordie. It's a good way to end as well.
Yeah.
So anyone wants to learn that, or to learn any of the others, and potentially some of yours as well, maybe just comment below useless moves, just so we Just so we know that you listened all the way and that you like stuff like that.
Because you never know.
Never know. Could offer some free tutorials. Could give it to the Black Club, or could bring out a cheap download with loads of stuff on that people could really enjoy practicing.
Yes. So we just.
Or none of it could ever happen.
Maybe it won't happen.
Maybe not.
So we just went over 1 hour, so we're gonna finish right there. So thank you, everybody who submit questions. Sorry if we didn't read your question out. We have to kind of obviously just pick the most interesting ones. So if we didn't read your question out, it means it was boring. I'm just kidding. We just pick and choose from a list, and we try and fit everything in. So sorry if we didn't answer your questions, but thanks for asking G some questions and not me for once.
Yeah. I just want to say as well to everyone, thank you so much for submitting questions. And to finish, Eric Batson tweeted me, and my response is, do you even lift? And we can end it there.
Perfect. G.
Thank you. Cheers, mate. Thank you.